Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, across the Caribbean, the region, and the world. I want to welcome you to another broadcast of Financial Health Friday. Sorry, your Financial Health Sundays. And of course, today we're going to be doing a broad overview of a range of issues as relates to your financial health. Research is showing that we have millions of people across the world who commit time, talent, and resources. They work hard, but in spite of the fact that they would have studied hard, attained their academics, and they're still working paycheck to paycheck. So today myself and Mr. Clement Frank will dig in a little deep into the subject matter. As you know, and for those who don't know, Mr. Frank, Clement Frank, he studied at the University of the West Indies. He lectured at the University of the West Indies. And he has a tremendous background in leadership. He also holds a master's degree in economics. So without further delay, I want to take this time to welcome Mr. Frank to the program. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. I want to start our conversation on a high note, and I want to just reflect a little bit on the New York Stock Exchange market. I think it was the 17th of May, 1792. The New York Stock Exchange market got started. That's about 228 years ago. Today, we have over 1 billion shares that changes hands on a daily basis via the New York Stock Exchange market. That in itself represents a tremendous amount of financial transaction that is taking place. And that transaction is not only by top corporate players, but it's also being done by the entrepreneur. The point that I want to make is that one of the things that helped us stimulate the development of the financial market overseas is the fact that they not only depend on the DCM, but they have the debt capital market, the equity capital market, and the credit capital market. The credit capital market creates the opportunity for the average person to take credit at low interest rate or at 0% APR. And they were able to take that capital and buy a stock or to buy a share. And that creates tremendous opportunities for persons to build wealth. And of course, there's risk attached to it. So it requires a great deal of knowledge as you try to capitalize on these opportunities for investment. Around the Caribbean, persons may not be that fortunate because we still have a developing stock exchange market, and we still have a developing financial market. But nevertheless, I still believe that there's tremendous opportunities for persons to identify smart investment portfolios, and we will discuss some of that today in order to build wealth. I now leave the floor open to you, Frank, for you to make your contribution as relates to where you see people are at and practical steps and tools that you believe you can use to escape that paycheck to paycheck cycle and that struggle to make ends meet.
Thank you. Our listeners may be wondering, when we talk about financial health, what are we talking about? Have we ever been financially sick? Do we get financially sick? Do we have a financial hospital? And the answer for that is really true. We can become financially sick, because let me explain what financial health really is. This is a term that is used to describe the state of one's personal monetary affairs. And there are many dimensions to financial health, including the amount of savings you have, how much you are putting away for retirement, how much your income you're spending on fixed or non-discretionary expenses. Now, for you to understand financial health, experts, that's financial experts, have devised rough guidelines for each indicator of financial health. But one of the things that we realize is that each person's situation is different. And for this reason, it is worthwhile to spend time developing your own financial plan. And that is going to ensure that you're on track to reach your goals and that you're not putting yourself at undue financial risk if the unexpected occurs. What we need to do also is to measure our financial health. How we do that? To get a better grasp of your financial health, it might help if you ask yourself a few questions and you consider this as what we call a self-assessment of your financial health. The first question you can ask yourself is, how prepared are you for unexpected events? And do you have an emergency fund? The second question is...
Sorry about that, Frank. You went low. Can you repeat the first question?
The first question is, how prepared are you for unexpected events?
Okay.
Do you have an emergency fund? Right? It's like a double question as one. The second is, what is your net worth? And is it positive or negative? Third question is, do you have the things you need in life? And then how about the things you want? Number four is, what percent of your debt would you consider high interest, such as your credit cards? Is it more than 50%? Then are you actively saving for retirement? Do you feel you're on track to meet your long-term goals? And the last question is, do you have enough insurance coverage, whether it be health or life? Now, how do you determine financial health? How is it determined? An individual's financial health can be measured in a number of ways. A person's savings and overall net worth represent the monetary resources at their disposal for current or future use. And these can be affected by debt, such as your credit cards, mortgage loans, auto and student loans, etc. So financial health is not a static figure. It changes based on an individual's liquidity and assets, as well as the fluctuation of the price of goods and services, demand and supply in the market. For example, an individual's salary might remain constant, while the cost for gasoline, food, mortgages, college tuition will all increase. Now, despite the good state of their initial financial health, the person may lose ground and lapse into decline if they do not keep pace with rising costs of goods and services. Now, typical signs of a strong financial health include a steady flow of income, rare changes in expenses, strong returns on investment that have been made, and a cash balance that is growing and is on track to continue to grow. Once you have that, you're on the verge of improving your financial health. And to improve your financial health, you must first take a hard, realistic look at where you currently are, calculate your net worth and figure out where you stand. And this includes taking everything you own, such as retirement accounts, your vehicles, whatever assets, and subtracting any and all the debts. And then you have to do what is considered budgeting. People don't realize a lot of persons do not budget, they just live as per day. You need to create a budget. And with your budget, it's not enough just to plan for where you'll be spending, but it's also important to take a hard and close look at where you already spend. Are there any areas where you could cut back? Recurring subscriptions that you don't really need, such as cable. It's fortuitous to understand what your needs are versus what your wants are. And most of the time, what we do is we want and we live in that and not look at what the needs are. And if you're good in computer and this spreadsheet software, you can use those spreadsheets and their mobile apps also to help set up a budget. Or use a time-tested envelope method, that is, which has, you create an envelope for each budget item, such as groceries, and keeping the allocated cash in the respective envelopes. And one of the major keys to a budget and maintaining your financial health, you must stick to your budget. I'll repeat that. You must stick to your budget, regardless of whether you start making more money or bringing in more income. We have a tendency and where we like good things, we like nice things, we are flashy. And so our lifestyle creep, which includes spending more money as you make more money, that is very detrimental to your financial health. So what about the emergency fund? When you're building an emergency fund, you can materially boost your financial health. The fund is meant to be money that's safe and readily available for emergencies. And these may be such as a car repairs, or you may lose your job. We need emergency even right now in this pandemic, the coronavirus. The goal should be to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in your energy fund. How do you deal with debt? Pay down your debt using what we call in finance avalanche or snowball methods. The avalanche method suggests paying as much as possible toward the highest interest debt while paying the minimum on all others. That's the avalanche. The snowball theory, meanwhile, suggests you take the smallest debt balance and then you work your way up to the largest debt. Of course, there will be pros and cons. You pick the one that works the best for your debt load and your money handling preferences. Let me hasten to give you some rules and tips for financial help. When it comes to effective personal finance, keeping your financial health in tip-top shape isn't always easy because we get caught up with living life. However, here are a few quick rules and tips that you can follow to either improve or keep you in good financial health. One, automate your bill pay and saving. That is, set up automatic transfers to a savings account and automatically pay all your bills. In Guyana, we have what is called the MMG app and other apps that you can use to remind you of bills to be paid, and you can pay it right from your home. The second thing is they always look for free checking and free accounts. Not sure we have that here in Guyana, but I must research that. Shop around for insurance. And whatever other recurring expenses you may have. And this includes if you already have these items. Now, if you're using a budget method such as a 50-30-20, which says you should be spending 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and saving 20% of your income. I'll go down again, 50-30-20, 50% on your needs, 30% on wants, and saving 20% of your income. Now, this 20% could include debt reduction if you have high interest debts. If you go to courts, if you have a credit union loan, if you have a bank loan, those are the bank loan especially is a high interest debt. Try to limit spending on housing, that is rent or mortgage, and to not more than 40% of your income. In other words, you have a rent to pay, it should not be more than 40% of what you earn. Invest early and often. That is, try to put 10 to 15% of your income directly into a retirement account. So we have that for your personal financial health. What about the business financial health? The financial health of businesses can be gauged by comparable factors going concern. For instance, if a company has revenue coming in and cash in the bank, yet it's spending its resources on new investments in production equipment, what does it spend it on? Office space, new hires, and other business services. It may raise questions about the long term. If more money is spent that does not contribute to the overall stability and potential growth of the business, this can lead to a decline that makes it difficult to pay regular expenses such as utilities and employee salaries. And this may force businesses to freeze or cut salaries in order to give the company the ability to continue operations. And many of us know that this has occurred far too often with businesses. And so the thing about it in having the financial health, one of the things that you must realize that health is wealth. If you are healthy financially, then you can consider yourself wealthy. Gary? Mr. Thompson?
Yes, my friend. You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I thought I lost you just now.
Okay. Well, that was certainly an in-depth overview of financial health. I really trust that the public was taking notes in relation to the number of issues that you raised. You talk about personal savings account, you talk about insurance, you talk about retirement account, you talk about a range of different things. Now, what I want to do, because I did recognize that the angle that you use is budgeting, and budgeting is very important in terms of assessing where you are and taking steps to start to build wealth. What I will talk about now is to give additional information, because I do believe that a critical part of financial health is you knowing how to increase your wealth. So I want to just briefly talk about good debt and bad debt. And I do believe that this is something that people need to stop and take stock and recognize exactly what I'm talking about. The average person, they're extremely excited about buying their car. They're excited about buying their home. They're excited about buying, furnishing, at the end of every year for their homes. The big question that I want you to stop and ask yourself is this good debt and balance between good debt and bad debt? Now, let me explain. Bad debt forces you to take your primary source of income and pay off for that debt. So that means that it is a liability. And let me just quickly look at a couple of things. You buy a car, and the car, you have to put gas, you have wear and tear, you may have monthly debt obligation to pay for that car. And you're depending on your one source of income to pay for that, as Frank does talk about. Some of these debts, it's not that we're saying don't buy a car, but there's a right and wrong time to buy the car, and there's a right and wrong way to buy that car. You don't want to buy a car as a liability. If you're going to buy the car as an asset, that's the smartest thing to do. And let me give you an example of what I mean. You buy that car and you have to pay from your primary source of income. It's a bad debt. You need to avoid that. But let us suppose that you take that money and you buy the car. And instead of have the car sitting as a liability, taking money for gas, for wear and tear, and monthly debt obligation, you use that car to generate income. So now the vehicle is generating income. That is, you don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for wear and tear. If even you have to pay for wear and tear and gas, you don't have to use your primary source of income to pay for it. And the monthly debt obligation that you may have to pay monthly installment is not coming from your primary source of income. So that money is not being reduced. You have these other sources of income. The car itself is being used as a vehicle to generate income. And this is an advantage that you want to look at. So it's important that as you get out there to start to build wealth, for you to take the time to understand the major difference between good debt and bad debt. Again, everybody may be very excited about buying their first home. Is that home an asset or a liability? Most people recognize that first home being a liability. In crisis like like this. Across the world is faced with a pandemic. Across the world, people are being laid off. Across the world, people time for work is being reduced. That means that your income base is being reduced. Your income base is being reduced, but your overhead expenses remains the same or is increasing. One reality here is that you're not able to reach your mortgage obligation. And when that happens for 3-4 months, you get a foreclosure letter. Then is when you recognize that the asset that you think was an asset, or the home that you think was an asset, is now a liability because someone has control over it to foreclose on it. So that's not necessarily the smartest way to buy a house, to pay from your primary source of income. Again, we are not saying don't go and buy your home. We want everybody to have your home, but there's a smart way and there's a wrong way. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. So one of the smartest things that you can do in terms of going to buy your home is to understand things like what is performing assets. All right. Perhaps if you can, the car can be a performing asset. So the car might be able to cash flow high enough to pay down on your monthly debt obligation in terms of the mortgage. So you don't have to go into your primary source of income to pay for that home. So you're actually living in a home and you don't have to pay for it. You have no debt obligation from your personal source of income. So these are important things that you must take the time to really understand. And these are some of the things that Frank was talking about as he talked to you about budgeting. So if you have a budget and the budget don't have a car in place, take it off your list. If you're budgeting and home mortgage is not there, you gotta take it off the list. I want to emphasize, and this is one of the reasons again why we at Global Capital Inc. and Frank representing the Family Planning Institute, we always talk about the importance of having a PFA, a professional financial advisor, and a personal financial advisor that can help you navigate this entire process. You see, working with a professional financial advisor, they will be able to help you to see the beginning, the end, and the center of investment portfolios, and they will be able to give you the smartest advice possible to make informed and educated decisions. So for the short and long term, you don't have to hurt yourself. From my standpoint, while budgeting is very, very important, I try to focus a lot on getting you beyond your single source of income. So far you were taught about good debt, you were taught about bad debt. What about multiple streams of income? What about doing a job that doesn't take away all of your time? Is it possible to develop an e-commerce business where you're using social media platform? You're doing affiliate marketing. Set up the platform, and you could be in Timbuktu. You could be sleeping, which is the best way to earn when you're asleep, and that platform could be cash flowing. So it's important now that you commit some time to learn some particular skill sets. And one of those skill sets that we highly recommend is for you to take time to understand what is affiliate marketing. A quick example. Affiliate marketing is where you identify top brands across the world and you seek permission to become an affiliate representative of those brands. It could be Nike, it could be Hanes, it could be Victoria's Secret, it could be Gucci, it could be a range of different brands. Once you get permission to represent this brand, you're able to build out independent online shopping platform. And once you're able now to drive traffic to that platform, you get a commission from all the sales that is taking place. And believe me, I've seen persons who have earned 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 USD per month. 20,000 USD per month in Guyana dollars is about $4 million. The average person does not earn that in a year or in 2 years. So here is where you have tremendous possibility here. Again, this is another reason why you need the PFA, the professional financial advisor, the personal financial advisor that can help you to navigate those terrains. And that's exactly why we're here at Global Capital Inc. and 10X Branding and Marketing LLC out of New York, is to ensure that you understand these platforms and you know how to navigate it. And that this is just the surface of tremendous possibilities that exist in the financial world. You don't have to live in lack. You don't have to live in limitation. You don't have to live with doubt. You don't have to live in fear. You can break the cycle of financial difficulty. You can break the cycle of stress and frustration by ensuring you avail yourself to learn the right tools, the right systems. Get a PFA, a professional financial advisor on your side, a personal financial advisor on your side that can mentor, coach you, and support you through that process of building wealth. I want to go so far to say to you that our systems, they have been tested and they have been proven. And we are quite certain, one, I must emphasize this, we're not talking about any get rich quick reality. We're talking about smart, safe, incremental approaches that you can use to build wealth. So within 5 to 10 years, we can bring you to that point where you're experiencing financial independence. And by financial independence, what do we mean? We're not saying to leave your job, but we're saying to you that you will be in a financial position where you don't have to work. All right, you have a choice whether you want to work or whether you don't want to work. But we're not saying to leave your job. You have enough income producing asset that can take care of you for the rest of your life. And I want to stop on this point here. We talk about home ownership. Home ownership is going to be perhaps the biggest investment that the average person will make in their lifetime. It's capital intensive. And because it is capital intensive, the majority of the persons who want to achieve their home will not be able to achieve it. I know this because I have to interface with persons across the world who have concerns that they are getting access to land, they are hearing of an opportunity, but guess what? They don't have the 10% equity to start that process, to even buy the loan, to now leverage that land has equity to get a loan to do the building process. Again, you are trained to see the difficulty. We at Family Planning Institute and Global Capital in 10X Branding and Marketing LLC out of New York, we are trained to find the solution. And there is solution. I'm going to give you some quick solution. The pathway to wealth is not a me, myself, and I scenario. The pathway to wealth, it's about forming synergies, it's about forming partnership, it's about forming networks. And this is why in one of my books, I strongly emphasize that relationship is the springboard for all success story. All right. The world has no lack of money. What the world has a lot of is lack of the right relationship. So one of the things that you must start to invest in is building relationships with the right people. And the first place that you can start is with your mommy, your daddy, your uncle, your aunt, your brother, your sister. And let me give you one of the reasons why. You want to go and buy a house valued at about 10 million GYP. Now, to make that, to get started, you at least need to have 10% equity. 10% of $10 million means that you have to have $1 million. It's going to take the average person years or a lifetime based on your single source of income to save up $1 million. But guess what? The possibility exists that within a few months, you can, cut corners. You can do some innovative project and you could raise up $100,000. But what if your mommy, your daddy, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your aunt, and everybody come together and pool their resources with you? You're not seeing the first home as a home that you're going to live in. You're seeing it as performing asset. All right? You're seeing it as part of your early retirement plan, your IRA, your investment retirement account. So you have 10 persons coming together, putting $100,000 each. You have the equity that you need to invest in your first home. You see, wealth is mindset. All right. And once you get the right way of thinking, the right mindset, and there is where you need the PFA, the personal financial advisor, the professional financial advisor that could mentor and coach you through this entire process. Once you have the right mindset, the right frame of mind, anything is possible. But again, when you go into business, you're thinking me, myself, and I. That's how the poorest of people think. Wealthy people do not think this way. All right. Wealthy people have $1 million clubs, $1 billion clubs. And guess what? They pool money together to make things happen. And there are many reasons why they do that. I will not get into all of that today. All right. But I trust that you're taking notes as to what it takes to really develop a healthy financial mindset. I really trust that you take note of the things that Frank said, the things that we're saying to you, so you can start a transition to start to build wealth. Frank, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I must stress is that start from today working on that budget. What is necessary and needed for you, you work towards achieving those. The ones will always come. You cannot, for the life of me, I don't understand how you're earning $10 a week and you want to live as if you're earning $100. Can't happen. No way. In my economics teaching, all resources are limited. All resources, especially financial resources. And so because it's limited, you have to make choices. And some things we will have to forego in order to get the things that you really need. I know for sure as economics, we say when you have your choices, we don't look at the choices you make because whatever choice you make, at least you made a choice. But when you're looking at the sociologists, they're going to say to you, why, if you may have 10 children, you have to look after them. How are you spending money on new clothes and new shoes and your children's salary?
You're right. Yeah, I think in economics and in business, we call it the opportunity cost.
The opportunity cost.
One for the other. Yeah.
Right. But the thing about it is that when you look socially, you cannot just spend in an unwise way. And so budget. Again, I have to stressing that. Budget, what is you needed. This is what you have for the month. This is what you can buy. This is what you need to pay your bills. Because you don't want to, you have children. And even if you don't, you'll still have to use electricity. You still have to use the water. You still have to use the internet. Especially if you're studying or you're working from home. And if those bills are not paid, then what are you doing? Going by the neighbor? Thief, Wi-Fi?
The thing about it is that you're right. I quickly want to just add something here based on what you're saying there. I want to say to young people, and this is solid financial advice. The moment many of you turn 18 and 19 and 20, the first thing that you do, you turn big man and big woman. You detach yourself from mommy and daddy because you don't want to be under the control. What happens there? You open the Pandora box to be in debt. You have to pay rent and light bill and telephone bill and all of the living expenses. When in fact, if you're thinking financial intelligence, you stay with mom and dad for another 5 and 10 years. Make sure that you're gainfully employed. And that is an opportunity to start building wealth. So all the monies that you pay in rent, you don't have to pay rent with mommy and daddy. You put all of that money into, as Frank was saying, a saver's account. And you allow, if you can save $50,000 a month, every year you're saving $600,000. All right, at the end of 2 years, you have a deposit to put down on your first home. All right, the money that you're going to be using for your living expenses, give it all to mommy and daddy. So mommy and daddy can go and do some shopping. All right, so you're making your contribution. So again, Frank, just quickly, people work themselves into poverty because they think that they're thinking smart. They think that because they're going independent is the smartest thing that they can do. All right, but at another time, we're going to talk about relationships and we're going to talk about education. But I just wanted to add that based on what you were saying. Go right ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so what I'm saying and jockeying from you, is that true. I felt that way when I turned 80 and I started working. But the thing about it, I had to end up going back home. Because when you realize what you're working for and that little money, and as an 18-year-old, you want to dress, you want to look good, you have to go to the barber, so much you need or seemingly need. But when I got back home and I realized, you know what, the money that I was paying for the rent, let me take that money and invest it. So what I did was, I didn't put it in the bank because, at the bank you could always go and take out.
Yeah.
I went to the credit union.
Okay.
And so because the credit union is a lot of bureaucracies you got to go to get the money. Why you want this money? Why you want it now? You got to try and tell the people why you want it. And if you come up with any good sensible thing, you're not getting it. And so it helped you now to save, because what eventually happened, that took that money was automatically being deducted of the salary. So is that a case where you have to find this money at the end of the month? It's already been deducted. Makes it easier for you to save. Even today, I have a credit union account. Awesome. And it's always good, especially in Ghana, to join a credit union. There are credit unions that you can go out there and join. Because at the credit union level, if you take a loan, it's 1%. Only 1%. So you can't go wrong. If you want to buy something from courts, borrow the money from credit union, pay courts cash. You're paying back the credit union only 1%. And that's a simple example of how you can save and how you can beat those high interest places.
Brilliant. Well said. I love that part of it. Can you just repeat that? Because I don't want persons to miss that. It's a very, very valid point. You know, instead of taking the debt where you pay all of that interest rate, you have 1%. Let's hear it.
You go to any credit union that will, you know, for public servants, they use the public service credit union. For persons who work in the private sector, we use CCW, which is Clerical and Commercial Workers Union. Whatever credit union you choose to use, remember your whatever debt you're in, your repayment is only for 1%. So what I'm saying then, if you need something from courts, you go to courts and buy it cash by borrowing that money from the credit union. Now the credit union with the same 1%, as a young person, you want a car, you can get the credit union to buy the car for you. The credit union is offering up to $5 million, but you never go looking for a $5 million car. So whatever car you you got to look at how much you can afford to repay, and they're going to sit with you and go through that. Okay, this is what your salary is. If your salary is $100,000, you can pay back a $3 million car for what is it, for $90,000. So those are things you have to look at. Yes, you need a car, but the thing about it, sometimes we shine eye, right? We want the best. You're looking for the comfort and the necessity of the car. And another thing, when you get a car, when you finish working in the afternoon, take the same car and do some special. Somebody might tell you, I want a drop to Mary to pick up family coming in. All those are monies can be coming in back because the car now, instead of being it becomes an asset to you because it's now using that money that you're gaining from the car to pay back your loan at the credit union.
You know, my friend, you are so perfect, you know, in terms of what you're saying. My reflection tells me that I was doing three jobs. Since I've known myself, I've never done one job. I was doing advertising. I was doing public relation. I was doing marketing. And, you know, when I closed my office in the day, I just purchased my new car. I had a driver for the car, but when he doesn't show up, I have to cash flow because I'm not going into my, you know, primary source of income. I'm not going into my business income to cover that cost. So I had to do what I had to do. And I must add, my good friend, that wealth building is sacrifice. All right. It is about seeing things that you want, not need, and being strong enough to turn a blind eye to it. All right.
Yeah.
Because you have a long-term vision. All right. It's sacrifice, it's being disciplined. If you're undisciplined, you're not going to build wealth. All right. So great points. Great points. Go on.
Yeah, so as I said before, make sure you budget, make sure you have good savings, and as I gave the advice, go to the credit union and borrow if you have to get a loan, right? The interest rate is very low, right? If you want something from where, if you want a piece of jewelry or something, it's good to have a little bit of jewelry. Nothing's wrong with that. But in getting the jewelry, are you breaking your back to get that piece of jewelry just because you want to bling? And when you're blinging, you go, oh, there's somebody can bling it off you. So buy those things that you really need. Studying, you need books. That's why you should be investing in. Education is a good thing to invest in. All right.
Oh.
a home is a good thing to invest in. And as I was saying with the credit union, with the person in the car, you can also get a mortgage with the credit union. The same 1%. So you can buy a house and you just pay back a 1%. The credit union, once you are not going to retire the next 3 years like me, they will lend you the mortgage. They will give you the mortgage. All right, because you have the life of work to get it, to pay them back. And so my advice is to always spend wisely. The resources that you have is limited, spend wisely.
Yeah. All right, I do believe that we give a number of important points. There's so much to talk about. I mean, I'm tempted to talk about, you know, credit card and how to leverage credit cards, you know, and avoid interest rates on those credit cards by understanding due date. But I will not go into that tonight. But I just want to say to the public, the listening public, that when it comes to building wealth, as Frank just said, one of the best things that you can do is invest in education. The great book says that a lack of knowledge of people shall perish. Perhaps you are perishing right now financially because you do not understand financial intelligence. And when it comes to talking about financial intelligence, there's a wealth of information out there. We at Global Capital Inc. and tenants Branding and Marketing LLC out of New York, we have spent the last 20 years compiling, researching, studying, developing our independent thesis that speaks to a multitude of ways that persons can use to build financial independence. And as time progresses, we will go deeper and deeper and deeper into that. For the general public, I just want to say at the moment, we offer a comprehensive service in terms of corporate debt management, corporate wealth management, personal debt management, and personal wealth management. Some of the things that Frank has hinted on, those are some of the things that we go into. But when it comes to buying debt, we really work with our clients to understand debt from 4 different standpoints. One is to understand the debt portfolio. In many cases, persons are only seeing the money that you want, all right? But the reality surrounding that money that you want might be things that you are not prepared to deal with. So what we do, we help you to understand the portfolios and select the best portfolios in terms of buying debt. Frank just gave you some. You can go to the bank or you can go to a credit union and you have 1% as against 6, 7, 8, 10%. So you have those options. So it's understanding those financial tools. But along with this is to understand what we call how to access the portfolio. Because in spite of the fact that Frank talked about these things, accessing it, there may be pre-qualification to access it. Those are some of the things that we work with you to get you to understand and get you prepared for that. Now, once you access it, you want to be able to leverage it smartly. And smart leverage is something that you need to know. Smart capital leverage is a critical part of your financial intelligence. Last but not least, understanding debt mitigation is absolutely necessary. And this is what can help you to save hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on whatever debt portfolio that you are going to be creating. And this is music to the ears of people that wants to build wealth. I want to show you the people that understand wealth building. They not only understand this, but they use it every single day of their lives in terms of positioning themselves in a stronger financial position. We at Global Capital Inc. Family Planning Institute, 10X Branding and Marketing LLC out of New York, we have the blueprint on wealth building. There's a number of programs that we would have. We have, including programs like the 10X Wealth Leadership Blueprint. When you look at the 10X Wealth Leadership Blueprint, it's a beautiful program. It stands on 5 pillars. One, you learn about the financial planner's game plan, and who don't want to know about the financial planner's game plan. This is a beautiful program that tells you exactly how to go about setting financial goals and developing the right mindset behind financial goals. We talk about the pathways to wealth, and you want to know the pathways to wealth because in the absence of you understanding the pathways, those pathways to wealth, you can be spending years doing particular tasks that does not have the potential to create wealth, but you don't know because you have never exposed yourself to the content of information. We talk about wealth leadership. Wealth leadership is a beautiful program that really helps you to understand debt capital, equity capital, credit capital, and smart capital. We talk to you in this program about proactive leadership, how to think ahead, see beyond problems, and take informed action when it comes to building wealth. Last but not least, this program talks to you about how to do your income audit analytics. A simple program where you're able to measure your income against your expenditure against your balance sheet against your future plans. And yes, you have a lot of future plans. You have home ownership, car ownership, early retirement, emergency savings account, children college fund. You have all of those things on your future plans. But guess what? Your balance sheet, based on the research that you're doing, is not able to satisfy your future plans. And what happened here? Many persons become stuck right here because you don't have a PFA, a professional financial advisor, a personal financial advisor that can help you navigate the process. Once we come in, we carry you to something that we call smart investment portfolio. And there's a range of those possibilities that you need to know. So you can now take your financial life in your hand, ensure that you're building financial health, and within 5 to 10 years, you're building financial independence. My good friend, Mr. Frank, now all over to you as we pull the curtain down on tonight's program. Any last words?
Just remembering what I said before, watch how you spend. Just watch how you spend. Fine. And as I said before, financial health, if you want to attain that, it doesn't come easy. And if you start off on a bad foot to get rid of all those debts and so on, it's going to be hard work, a lot of sacrifices. So before you get yourself where you're hanging yourself, be careful of one, in what you're spending on, how you spend. Look at what you're earning as to what you want to achieve. And as I said before, since financial resources is limited, spend wisely.
Great advice. And there you had it, public. And today we look at your financial health Sundays, and every Sunday we're going to be bringing you some topic that looks at your financial health. Our vision with the Family Planning Institute, Global Capital Inc., 10X Branding and Marketing LLC out of New York is to bring you this content of information to ensure that you are building financial health, to ensure that you can get off of that paycheck to paycheck cycle, to ensure that within 5 to 10 years, you can see that it's possible to build up financial independence so you can come off that treadmill. We are fully aware that highly educated spend about 4 to 9 years in the workforce. And many of you, even after 4 to 9 years in the workforce, you still have not yet, attained your home, your dream home. You still don't have the kind of cars that you want to have. You're still not able to provide your family with the kind of security that you want to provide for them. We are aware of this. We're here to provide practical solutions to you. So I want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. So one, you will be the first to get this information that we bring it to you on a regular basis. And when you share it, you will allow us to reach as much people as possible. I want to encourage you also to comment, use the chat box, and let us have a conversation. This is not a lecture. I want this to be a conversation. So we can give you information, you can give us feedback, and we can all learn together in this entire process. Remember, you're not lack limitation, doubts, and fear. You have the potential to achieve greatness, but it's not enough to know it. It's enough to make the commitment to be better than you are today. Be blessed, Frank.
Yes, have a good night.
Yes, my friend. All right,
Have a good night.
so we do this again soon. Be blessed. We do this again next week. Yeah, my friend. Take care.